Hi everybody, thanks for stopping by to check out the latest from Sailing Emerald Steel. In this video we're going to be discussing the importance of balancing your sails for long ocean passages. But before we get started, as usual, we'd like to thank all of you for all your comments and thumbs up on our last video. Keep the comments coming, appreciate it.
We realize that our rig is old-fashioned kind, so our sailing is quite a bit different than most modern rigs. But what we found out is that even if you sail with a wind vane, they are perfect as long as they work. But then if something happens, it's like back into the old-fashioned way, because not always you have opportunity to fix it, maybe a spare parts and so on and so forth. I will relate a story to you about friends of ours in Southern California, and they worked very hard, husband and wife, and they're saving their money and getting ready their sailboat. The sailboat was a nice cruiser, a 38-foot catch, and time has come for them to embark on a voyage to South Seas. Now we were following their blog, and what happened was this here. Then about halfway through, the autopilot gave up. They ended up hand steering. Now hand steering sounds very nice when you are sailing on the bay for afternoon, but it's really a hell if you have to sail day after day in a long voyage.
And that's especially true if there's just two people in the crew. If you have a crew with many people, then it's not such a big deal, but for two people it can be really grueling.
So after sailing behind the steering day after day, they ended up in a big fights, because I understand, according to blog, the guy didn't really feel like doing it. He was complaining about his bag and so forth. By the time they got to Tahiti, they were in a very, very bad situation where they decided to actually sell the boat and split up. But somehow they decided, because Tahiti was not a very good place to sell the boat, they would lose a lot of money. They decided to sail back non-stop up north. Now, by then they bought a new autopilot, so they didn't have to stay sitting behind the steering. But once they got back home, they decided to get divorced. So that's pretty much share with you. One very bad experience on a long voyage can not only end your cruising life, but also your marriage life. So that's pretty much the story to learn from it. And believe me, there is not only one situation. There are many, many people who gave up sailing because of hardship on the passage when something breaks.
And that was their first offshore passage.
So that is very important if you learn how to sail your boat unaided by any kind of mechanical device, like a wind vane or an autopilot. And here I would like to show you how my self-steering of the balancing sail actually work. So pretty much our mainsail is strictly for driving, and a jib, a Yankee jib on the bowsprit is strictly from a steering purpose. We were on a cruiser's net on SSV radio. Several boats had big problems with the self-steering. They end up steering by hand, and that's put an awful strain on the crew when you have to sit behind the steering. And they took 6 hours on and 6 hours off watches. They've been complaining, and still have a nice, enjoyable trip. They had to sit behind the steering and steer, which gets very, very tired. The mainsail, it's all out, holding out by preventer. The boom is raised, creates a belly, and she's driving sail, which is pretty good square footage wise. And a friend Yankee jib on the end of the bowsprit is strictly for a steering purpose. When she was want to turn into the wind, it means port, the jib push her back. If she wants to turn to starboard, in other words jibing, then the jib gets backwinded and push her bow back on the course. When the wind picks up, say to 20 knots, I put a reef in, because otherwise my main would overpower the jib and she would be rounding to the wind. And then when the wind gets a little bit lighter, I release the reef, and she's again back in the trim. And that's how basically the principle of a Joshua Slocum, and sailing all around the world by himself, the way he explained it works, and this is exactly the same. So it's not a question of belief, it's a question of trying and see it works. It works for many, many miles like this. We sailed her all the way from New Zealand via Tahiti, Hawaii, back to California in that principles. That's how we're sailing. Susan tightening up the preventer to hold our boom out. It's kind of a little rolly, so it helps from a boom bouncing up and down. And right there by her foot, I see, is another squid that landed on our deck. Let's bring it closer. That's good. That's good. One more plus for Susie. And I hear the captain.
Hi. Yes, we're having a good time.
Well, here's the captain's stimulus. I would say first mate stimulus. All right, I know.
Go make breakfast. Once you have your sails balanced, you can just let her go. Then you can comfortably relax and go about your daily business. It surely beats sitting behind the wheel. Of course, you have to keep a good lookout for passing ships and an eye on your barometer for changes in the weather. While one of us is sleeping, the other is on watch but still has plenty of time to read or anything else they enjoy doing. It's mostly been our experience that the winds increase and the squalls seem to be worse at night, so we always put one reef in our mainsail before we start our night watch routine. This way we hopefully don't have to disturb the person off watch. Perhaps it's not the fastest way of sailing, but it's an enjoyable and safe way to get you into port. After all, you're not racing, you're cruising. And after everything's done, you can just relax and enjoy the sunset. When the winds are lighter and aft of the beam, we use our drifter. And again we use our mainsail to counterbalance her so she will self-steer. Most of your sailing in the trade winds is done with the wind aft of the beam, so the sailing is enjoyable, although sometimes it can get pretty rolly when larger swells are present.
So, you enjoying yourself, Susan?
Yes, I am. Beautiful.
Beautiful sailing, huh?
What it's all about. This kind of day is amazing. When the morning comes, we let the reef out of our mainsail and set our staysail so she's properly balanced. Make sure you always wear your safety harness when you're working on the foredeck. Always make sure you coil your halyards properly, because before you know it they will be in the water and eventually wrap around your propeller. Last night we had no wind for a full 24 hours, actually yesterday and into this morning. And now the wind's just starting to kind of pick up, but it's still maybe 5 knots. So we're motoring, and we have this up ahead of us, this big ugly cloud bank, which might be holding back our winds. I don't know. So we're going to try to get through that and see what happens. There's Jules in the cockpit. Yep, the sails are down and we're powering. So now when we power, we've got to sit behind the wheel. That's why we have not been doing too much powering. Sailing on the wind, you trim your sails as best you can with your rudder amidship, then slightly release your mainsail until she lightly starts to luff. The jib will push your bow off as the power of the mainsail will bring her back into the wind. Make sure the jib is always full of wind and let the process repeat. In this way you can balance your sails when sailing to windward. Remember, if the wind should pick up momentarily, such as in the case of a squall, she will head up into the wind, and as soon as the squall passes, she will go back on her original course. This technique works well, primarily for heavier cruising type boats with a long straight keel and a mid to heavy displacement. that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a comment, a thumb up if you like the video, and subscribe. And we'd like to once again thank all of our new Patreons and people that support us through PayPal. We really appreciate your guys' support. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Sailing